You. Yeah, you. Do you know where you are? Well, you've done it now. You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda, your CNBC news station. So expect the unexpected.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Here at U-Turn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities and small government. Join your hosts, Nadia Renner, Tom Murphy, and Eric Steinman, as we work to put local governments on a diet and champion the charities that support your community. So come on, join us and let's turn it around.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Happy Sunday. We got Tom live and direct. You got me in the studio, and Eric is joining us via telephone. Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Happy Sunday. Just in case you guys don't know, today is National Chocolate Day. Felt like I had to share that because Halloween's right around the corner. And so now you know that today.
What does that mean for us personally?
The Halloween part or the chocolate part?
National Chocolate Day.
It would be nice if you pick up some chocolate and give it to your girlfriend, wife, and say, here's some chocolate, baby.
Okay. See what I can do about that.
It's loving, and then you tell them it's National Chocolate Day. Oh, no, Tom. I just wanted to share that fun fact. Eric, can you hear us?
Absolutely.
Happy National Chocolate Day, Eric. Today we have a great show. Actually, we have an amazing show because last week we talked about Barstow and how they want to increase sales tax by 1%. We had Billy Braun as our guest last Sunday. Today we have a very interesting show because it seems like Laguna Beach wants to kind of do the same thing, Tom.
Yeah, the theme of, I guess, these couple shows is, last week we talked about there's like 254 different initiatives on this November ballot. All of which raise taxes, or they ask the populace to raise taxes in one way or another. And really an interesting op-ed by a gentleman in Sacramento. He says, you see these things across the state, and what they're asking folks to do is increase the amount of money that's coming out of whatever tax they're raising. For a bunch of, if you will, mom and apple pie reasons, so we can have public safety, libraries, those types of services that a municipal or a county, if there's not an incorporated area, those types of services. We need more money to pay for that stuff. What they're not telling folks is, underneath our budget, what's driving our budget issue is we need more money to pay pension fund costs. So, and if you look at kind of their finances, they've actually been going up pretty well in the past few years. Remember, revenue in general comes from either property tax or sales tax. There's fees and that type of thing, but and property tax has been going up because the value of real estate's been going up, right?
Right.
So you got they got increasing revenue, but it's not enough to cover their cost. So you say, okay, why are your costs going up? And these initiatives would have you believe that they're going up because we need more money to pay for these things, and they're not being honest about one of the strong cost drivers is the cost of our pension payments, what we're having to pay to keep up with the whole pension debacle.
Right. And I know we're going to be touching and talking about Laguna Beach. And as a matter of fact, the show title today is Laguna Beach Wants to Bury Utilities. Why should we care? Because, too, there's a reason why we're touching on this, because at some point it's important for the Inland Empire, right?
Yeah. And that's why we said, why do we care?
Right.
Because, let's face it, Laguna Beach, if folks don't know, it's a well-to-do spot over on the coast in Orange County. The median income there is like 65% higher than it is in the county here. And you're like, why are we looking at Laguna Beach in what they're doing, because that's kind of the rich people living on the coast, and that's not the demographic necessarily here. But essentially, they're doing the same thing. They're asking their citizens to pay another 1% in sales tax. And then as we get into it, we'll kind of look at the details and find out what they're...
Of why it's important here in the Inland Empire, too.
Cost.
And right before we get into all of that jazz, too, I also want to share that all of our listeners that call in get rewarded. Yes, that's right. If you call in, we will spin the wheel, and you can win from hundreds to thousands of dollars on behalf of your favorite charity. Yes, you heard that right. Hundreds to $1,000. We've been giving out a lot of money, so if I were you, I would call 909-792-5222. That's 909-792-5222. And if you guys want to share any information or get in contact with us, you can email us at info@uturnradio.com. We also have our website, uturnradio.com, and we have all of our social media handles on there that you can follow us and be part of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. However, we're going to keep going and talk about...
Yeah, we got this... we have this clip, and what this clip is from a group over in Laguna Beach, and they're stoptaxingourproperty.com. Okay, so there's a group over there that it is opposing this Measure P. Okay, so Measure P is Laguna Beach's request, if you will, that their citizens begin paying an additional 1% on the sales tax.
Okay.
And there's a group over there that obviously are not excited about that. It's a grassroots effort, and you'll tell by the video that it's a grassroots effort. But this clip that he's going to play for us kind of explains it.
Okay, let's set that up.
I think we're having a.
This is what happens when you do live radio.
This is Monterey Drive in Laguna Beach. The Laguna Beach City Council wants a 1-cent sales tax increase to underground the street's utility poles. Or does it? It is one of a dozen streets on a preliminary list in the measure for undergrounding. The measure allows the City Council to remove, modify, or prioritize projects from the preliminary list. All the streets listed in the measure could never see the poles go away. The sales tax increase would probably stay. Pass the measure, and the City Council could issue a bond without resident approval, buy property, pay the salaries and pensions of new city employees. The idea of undergrounding utility poles sounds good. The measure isn't.
Okay, so there's a lot in there, and we got a lot to try to weave together in our show today.
Right.
And they're doing a great job there, and I'll explain as we go along.
Absolutely. So what you just heard, like you said, we got it from stoptaxingourproperty.com. We got that audio from there. And pretty much we're going to explain what Measure P is. Yeah,
we're gonna talk a little bit about Measure P. We're also as a bonus that we're gonna give our listeners today, we're also gonna try to explain how to read an initiative, really how to read anything that a government agency proposes, and to be short, read it with skepticism. and it's obvious that these folks have done that.
Right. So, I mean, for citizens, though, Tom, wouldn't it be like if you're saying that, they're going to raise taxes, 1% tax, and they're saying that it's for, like, how you said, libraries and these different things, isn't that, or wouldn't that be like a good thing at some point?
And that's a great point, because they always use something that looks good. Undergrounding utilities, I mean, does that sound bad to you?
Not at all.
No, get that stuff's ugly, right?
Yeah.
And particularly, they make a legitimate case. I mean, I know the area. Laguna Beach Canyon Road is basically the community has. You got 3 ways out of the community if there's a fire. Mm-hmm. So what they're proposing is, hey, let's make one of those ways out safe by dropping the utilities underneath the ground. And it goes through a brushy area. It's kind of a high fire danger. So it's you know what I'm saying? It's not, from one perspective, it's not a bad idea. It's actually a pretty good idea. I mean, even for the aesthetics, just get that junk underground. It looks ugly.
Right. And then, I mean, the one, if just because I have to almost say, like, it's just 1%, Laguna Beach, you know, people tend to have more money. Like you said, they make about, what, $60,000 a year.
Almost, their median household income over there is like almost 93,000 a year.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, is this really bad compared maybe to something like Barstow, I would say? You know how Barstow, when we talked about it last week, it was 1%, but, I mean, you can't compare Barstow to Laguna Beach.
Right. Well, you can, and we're doing it. And here's the reason we're doing it is no matter the economics of the place, mm-hmm. government is still asking for more. And that's what they're doing in Laguna Beach. And they're using undergrounding as a subject, but it's essentially the same thing when you begin to look at their initiative and what they're asking for.
So you're kind of saying that it could be the same thing. The money might be used in the same way, but they're just changing what they're saying that they're going to use it for.
No, here's what I guess here's what I'm trying to get across is, 254 statewide governments are asking for more money. Mm-hmm. They want to increase their piece of the pie. And they use a number of different topics. I mean, you could say excuses to justify that request to their citizens.
Okay.
But if you start reading the details and you read them skeptically, you'll find underneath it all, there's a driver there. And the driver is they're not controlling their costs with respect to personnel and pensions.
Okay, so let's go into the section 1, right? So Laguna Beach wants to bury utilities, not a bad idea, right? And then it's in 1993, 441 homes were destroyed by fire in Laguna Beach.
Yeah, I mean this is an area that has a high fire danger, if you will. So it sounds like a great idea, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection determined that power lines caused fires that burned 180 acres, destroyed 3,000 structures, and took 18 lives.
Yeah, that was actually 180,000 acres. This was last year when basically all of California burned. You had the fires up in Santa Rosa that destroyed a number of homes, a number of neighborhoods. Those were all started by power cables coming down in high wind and sparking. Not all, many of them were started that way. So you had a power cable come down, spark, start a fire. The winds were gusting 60, 70, 80 knots or miles per hour, and that kind of rolled through, if you will, Santa Rosa and destroyed a large neighborhood, a lot of homes.
Okay, so it's still not sounding like a bad idea because it's like, hey, this might be something that we probably need because of what has happened. We might have to use this money to do these type of things for that purpose.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So it sounds like a great idea.
Okay, so what is the title of Measure P?
Okay, the title of Measure P is Laguna Beach Undergrounding and Fire Safety Measure. That sounds pretty good, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So far, so good. We're tracking, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the intent?
Okay, but before we hit that intent, I want to give you a quote, and this apparently is from The Godfather, written by Mario Puzo. He says, "One lawyer with a briefcase can steal more money than 100 men with guns." right?
I really actually like that quote.
Okay, so the and this is where the reading lesson becomes really important. And Measure P folks have done their homework, if you will,
right.
and they've read it, and they have some issues. So the first thing, maybe the first thing to bring up, and this bothers me, that it says for the privilege of selling personal property at retail, a special tax of 1% is going to be imposed. So this is a bit of a rat hole or a rabbit trail, but it just kind of goes against my grain for the government to say, hey, for the privilege of you getting out there hustling, trying to do a job, make money, sell stuff, we're going to take 1% more from you.
Right.
Okay. So that just bothered me. But what they're going to do is they promise to improve emergency evacuation access routes.
Okay.
Okay. That sounds good, right?
Absolutely.
9/11,
so far.
911 emergency response in case of disaster. So they want to improve their 911 response.
So usually so they could get there faster, that type of stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And they want to reduce wildfire risk by moving overhead wires underground. Okay.
Okay.
So this all sounds like really good stuff. And then it starts to get a little nebulous here. Key evacuation routes and other areas. Okay, so
wait, repeat. Go back. What did you just say, Tom?
So they want to underground in this specific place, Laguna Canyon Road, but then they say key evacuation routes, and then they say and other areas. Okay,
and that's what we start diving into. So what are the key?
This is where the lawyer is much more valuable than the 100 guys with guns, because in that advertisement or that spot at the beginning, you saw that. It's like, hey, the city council has basically just voted themselves, or is asking us to vote them the ability to kind of pick and choose the projects they want to do.
Right.
So it could be like, I'm a city councilman, I want my stuff undergrounded on my street, so hey, let's put that up to the top of the list. And there's...
So wait, this is good. So what you're saying, when they do these type of things, they could put whatever seems to fit their agenda, to say in that way.
Yeah, the way
whatever
this is written.
So for example, if I say I want a library is in the plans, they don't have like a schedule of like, these are the first things that we're gonna do or perfect before we do this.
No, it's not it's not that broad. They have a list of, I think, 10 different areas that is like their project list. But then in the paragraph underneath it, it says basically, if these don't really work out, the city council has the ability, without permission of the residents or something like that, we can change the project list. We can choose to do something else. I mean, does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
So they have kind of a blank slate in terms of their project list when it comes down to it.
So now here's the thing: if you're voted and you're like, yeah, okay, we want to improve the city and this type of stuff. Once once that goes and it's approved, then how can you say, wait, no, but the money's not going here, and we said when I voted, I thought it was going there. After that, once that's passed on, the citizen has no power after that, right? To say, wait, this money that you're spending on this shouldn't have gone there because we said, or we voted that it should have gone to this other project first.
Well, it's interesting, and this again is another part of the sales marketing effort, I guess, if you will, with some of these tax hikes. Remember last week, Ms. Braun talked about a citizen oversight committee.
Right.
This initiative has the same thing. It's a citizen oversight committee, and effectively, apparently, they're toothless, because what they do is they review what's already been done.
Right.
So, a group of citizens sit down and say, okay, city, what did you spend your money on this year or, this quarter or however long they do it? And it's like, okay, we spent it on this, 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 and this. And if that doesn't necessarily fit within the requirements of the initiative, what are they going to do?
Well, yeah, that's that's what I'm thinking. Like, I mean, it's all good and stuff when you're kind of promised something and it's like, okay, well, if this is passed, this money is going to go here. But my thing is, what about when it doesn't go there, and they start spending it differently? How much power does the citizen have to kind of say, wait, that's wrong. We said it was this,
Yeah, the only power, if I understand it, the only power this thing does is the citizens review and then they can question and they can go, you can go to the press or go to the city council and say, hey, why are we spending money differently than we said we were going to do?
I wonder what the process of getting those answers is compared to going to a supervisor's meeting and getting an answer.
It's probably very similar.
That's what I wonder.
So, as the stop taxing our property folks explained, you really have to read these things and read it with the perspective of cynical,
right?
Or a very untrusting. Like, okay, what holes did the lawyer leave in this document that are going to be used to kind of drive trucks through?
This makes me think of like how they have that saying, like there's two sides to one story. That's exactly how I feel you have to look at this stuff. Like, it's just not one side. It's not just what you're reading, but it's almost like you got to educate yourself to know what the second part is or the other part behind the first part of this story, or in this case, this measure.
Yeah, another thing in the small print of this initiative that they don't really tell you up front is the city council without permission from the citizens can issue bonds, which that's basically long-term debt, and I don't remember what the ceiling is, but without the citizens' vote, the city council, to fund this whole effort, could go out and borrow money at whatever 8% or something like that.
Now, when they borrow money, you're saying they can borrow however much money they want. There's no like, hey, you can only do a certain percentage or a certain amount every year.
There's a cap, but I don't know exactly what the cap is. But the point is, if you're living in Laguna Beach, and your 15-year-old kid is living there.
Yeah.
When that 15-year-old kid is 45, they could be finally paying off whatever debt that the city council bought into for this thing,
and
that's without a vote,
right?
Because it's kind of buried, if you will, in the fine print of their stuff here. The other thing it says. Proceeds shall not be used for salaries of existing personnel, pensions, unfunded pension liabilities, or additional facilities. Do you see what their fine lawyer has just done there?
Shall have the ability. Those are the keywords there.
No. The keyword
to remove.
Keyword is that one right there.
Oh, gotcha.
Existing. Why would they write that in? Why would they say existing? Why wouldn't you drop that sentence or that word out and say salaries of personnel pension? If you wanted to limit where this money went, why would you put existing in there?
Yeah, because obviously existing is the people that are working right there, right now.
The person, the person that gets hired by the city of Laguna Beach on let's say December, or let's say January 1st, 2019, this fund could be used to pay their salary.
Absolutely. Eric, did you have a comment to make there?
Yeah, the thing to be conscious of on when they create these new revenue streams, there's two things. One is they're taking a bigger part of the economic pie, which is a cost to everybody else to do it. But what they often do is not stop there, and it's kind of out of the playbook of this guy that became kind of the most powerful person in the city of New York, and I know it from a book that Tom's brother actually sent to me called The Power Broker, and it's quite a few people have read it. It's a New York Times bestseller. But there's a clause in the Constitution that says you cannot interfere with a contract. It's the contract clause of the Constitution. So, and it started in New York where they started going and building these bridges, and they say, hey, we need the money to build a bridge. So they would issue a bond to, and say, the bridge is going to cost $100 million. We need to spend that money now. People are going to be using that bridge in the future, so we'll charge money back on this, and we'll have a bond. So we issue a bond for $100 million, and we charge a toll at the bridge. We make it a toll bridge, and then they promise, almost across the board, that as soon as we collect enough tolls to pay for the bridge, we'll take the toll booths out, and everybody can drive across the bridge with no problem, because we'll have got all our money back. But never to lose a chance at revenue when you're in government. What happens when the bonds would get $100 million would be paid back through the tolls, the people in politics in New York City, and this has happened in other areas, could not stand to see that revenue go away and just say we paid for the bridge. So they would then go find like a housing project or something like that, make a contract, and then issue another bond that was going to be paid back by that bridge revenue. And then some people that said, hey, wait, we're supposed to be able to go across that bridge for free now, would challenge it in court, and inevitably they would lose because they would say there's now a contract in place between a private entity and the city, and we cannot interfere with that. And in that way, none of these bridges have done anything other than, as you would expect, you paid for the bridge, you let people go across it now. They've only become a cash cow into the present day, where they just, it turns around and it becomes, how much revenue can we really get? What's the point that we can tax people or charge a fee for them to cross the bridge until they stop using it and do something else? And that's the only limitation on it when that happens. You can fast forward that to where we're at in San Bernardino County, and you can look at, for instance, the parking lots at the airport. And they were set up so that people can park when they have to fly. And, it costs a little money to buy the parking lots and develop them, pave them and whatnot, so they issue a bond for that. And they have to, restripe them every now and then, a little operation. So they collect a little money to pay for that parking lot operations and to pay back the bond. And up until about 8 months ago, that amounted to $9 in Lot 3 at Ontario Airport. And in one day, sometime between when I had flown out and got back, that $9 became $14, which makes no sense because certainly the operations haven't gone up that much, and certainly by now they've paid back all the initial bond on them. But the only thing that happened that same week was the airport hired this guy, Greg Devereaux, who used to be the chief executive officer of San Bernardino County, who's now a consultant for a number of cities and the airport and everyone else around the county. Main area of expertise appears to be how much can we charge everybody for everything without respect to whether it's fair and reasonable to charge them. So now that parking lot at the airport has become the same thing as these bridges in New York, just a cash cow for the government to get as much money as possible, when the thing that was originally approved was a bond to pay this back. That relates to what you're talking about here with this underground district, where they're going to try and say, we need some sales tax revenue to put those utilities underground and pay for that. And then since we have to pay for it up front, we can go issue a bond so that we can go do this. When that bond is paid off, that sales tax will never go away. And that's just proven over and over in history. And if you want to get more into the details and how that happens, how that's protected from a government's perspective, you can read that book, The Power Broker, and see how this has kind of became a traditional tool to grow government and create more funds that they can use for whatever they want, once something is paid back from its initial intended purpose. Well, hopefully that wasn't too boring and long, but that's what happened. And the effect of that is that this becomes something that impacts future generations as well. It's not a pay-as-you-go type thing. It's we're going to put a tax that's going to affect future generations, and we're going to have the ability to sell bonds that affect future generations. And it doesn't put this thing that you described doesn't even put a limit on the bonds to pay for the underground. It just gives this authority, this bridge authority, the ability to issue bonds. Now that's what happened in New York for these bridges. Is bridge authority became the most powerful entity in New York because they then took on doing parks and they took on doing housing, and they issued bonds all over. But they used the bridge money in order to float the bonds. So.
Yeah, that's true. I think that what you just shared right there, Eric, is really good to know because it's not something new, and there's obviously history of what they've done in the past and how it just keeps working. And even like the book that you referenced to, I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is their way of working, and it's only going to keep going. So we're going to break into a commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to keep talking about the tax increase in Laguna Beach and why does this matter to you in the Inland Empire. U-Turn Radio. We'll be back.
We'll be right back to U-Turn after this commercial break. Don't go away.
How would you feel if you had to make a choice between buying food or spending your fixed income on life-saving medicine? No one should make that trade-off, but many low-income seniors are forced into difficult decisions like this every day. Smiles for Seniors Foundation provides energy assistance and safety net services to struggling low-income seniors in the Inland Empire. They provide one-time assistance to seniors to meet specific financial needs. They've helped with food, housing, utility payments, minor home and auto repairs, along with life-saving prescriptions or medical equipment. A nonprofit foundation funded entirely by donations from local organizations. Smiles for Seniors receives no funding from the state or federal government. They are funded by local businesses and individuals like you with big hearts and willing wallets. You can find more information or to donate to Smile for Seniors at 909-790-6671. That's 909-790-6671, or visit smilesforseniorsfoundation.org. That's smilesforseniorsfoundation.org.
For more U-Turn Radio, go visit our website at uturnradio.com. That's uturnradio.com. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at uturn_radio. That's at uturn_radio. Or follow us on Facebook at U-Turn Radio.
The Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley, protecting animals for more than 4 decades. The Humane Society's mission is to prevent cruelty and neglect to animals and to provide for the health and well-being of animals with an emphasis on spay or neuter programs to prevent pet overpopulation. Visit the Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley for your pet's medical needs, 909-386-1400, or visit hssbv.org. The Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley, a leading nonprofit organization in caring for all animals in need. Support the San Bernardino City Mission. Your donations help feed the hungry, provide used clothing for low-income families, provide access to housing and rehabilitation for the homeless, and help all who come to them for help. The mission provides a personalized assistance program for homeless men and homeless women and children. They help get less fortunate off the streets, place them in safe shelters, and get them back on their feet. Last month, the community helped provide over 7,400 meals and provided nearly 2,000 pieces pieces of clothing, as well as almost 180 hygiene kits, which were provided for the needy. San Bernardino City Mission goes above and beyond, though, providing personal counsel, prayer, and a devotion time to encourage those in need in their spiritual life. So listen up, everyone. For a donation of just $1.57, you can feed a hungry person right here in San Bernardino. $15.70 will feed 10 people, and $157 will feed 100 hurting men, women, and children. If you're interested in helping and want to know more additional information, you can go to sanbernardinocitymission.org or call 909-649-0011. 909-649-0011. The San Bernardino City Mission, feeding the hungry, helping the homeless. That number again, 909-649-0011. Or visit them online, sanbernardinocitymission.org.
Tom, Nadia, and Eric are back with more only on the U-Turn Radio Show right here on KCAA.
Welcome back to U-Turn Radio. We have Eric via telephone and Tom and I live and direct here in the studio. Before the commercial break, we were over Laguna Beach, and pretty much their sales tax, they're trying to also increase their sales tax by 1%. And the city council says they want to bury utilities and decrease fire hazards. However, how does Laguna Beach, or why should the Inland Empire care about the sales tax increase in Laguna Beach, Tom?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's try to draw this together a little bit. So, you have the city of Laguna Beach using a public safety topic, if you will, some writing, the way it's written, that has some holes in it, that is going to collect money and potentially allow the city council really a lot of freedom in how they use that funding, right? Mm-hmm. So there's three kind of themes that you see. There's public safety issue, the way the stuff is written, and then Eric kind of hit on this at the end, and I'm going to have to get a drink here. There's the repeat button.
Right.
And go ahead and
well, pretty much
I'm about to die here.
Live to radio, ladies and gentlemen. Just kind of like what Eric was sharing with us, the example of New York doing it with their bridges, pretty much having these bonds that they have to pay back.
I'm back.
Yeah, they didn't even put anything into this legislation that said, that all happened after they had put into their original enabling legislation for these bridges that as soon as they're paid back, we will stop charging a toll. Here, in what you're seeing, they haven't put anything like that in there. This is, in their mind, I'm sure, intended to be a perpetual 1% sales tax to be used for all kinds of stuff, but they're not selling it as that.
Okay. Yeah, so now we're trying to get to San Bernardino.
Did you get enough to drink there, Tom?
I don't think he did. Eric, I think something's happening to Tom. This is what you call live radio, and Tom is trying to get some type of message out, but apparently he can't, so he's taking a quick drink. But what we're trying to really get here is, why does it matter? Why does the Inland Empire, or why should we care that Laguna is going to have a 1% tax increase?
It matters because San Bernardino has the potential with this undergrounding utility thing. Mm-hmm. They have the potential to essentially do what they've done with FP5.
Wait, what?
let me pick up on that. Why, Tom, you get your throat cleared or whatever you have to do.
I think it's hopeless.
Eric, please help us out here.
I'm going to die on the set here.
All right.
Eric, take over, please.
Here. So on FP5, they initially had a discussion with the community of Hellendale, who was forming their own community service district. And they wanted to take on as many powers of being a city as they could. But you can't just declare yourself a city. You have to go to an agency of the county government that they call LAFCO. And, I don't know why, but these are people that get together and have meetings and try and determine whether you're going to be feasible as a government entity. And I think the feedback for Hellendale is you will not be feasible as a city. You can't be your own city and have your own police and fire and whatnot, but you could be a community service district, which is something less than a city, but you have more self-control than an unincorporated part of the county. So, for instance, you can take on certain functions like parks and recreation. A lot of community service districts take on the providing water for their people within their community service district area. So Hellendale did this and started their CSD, but there wasn't any provision for fire services. So they had to make a deal with the county for fire services. And the county said, look, we will step in and do the fire services for Hellendale, but you have to put a parcel tax on all your people in Hellendale of $157 a parcel, and we'll use that money to provide fire service for you in Hellendale, which is about, and I may be off on this, but probably not by much, about 5,000 people. And, Tom probably knows the square miles. It's some small area.
Yes, the original area is 5.6 square miles.
5.6 square miles,
and like you said, it's about 5,000. And they actually had about 1,200 people vote on this in 2006. 1,200.
Okay.
Out of the 5,000. And 5,000 people in 5 square miles is very dense. So with 157 a parcel, you're going to get a lot of money for providing fire service to a 5 square mile area. And this is something that happens on their tax bill every year. And the other flip side of that is that leaves the amount that is collected for property tax there is no longer has to be used for fire or is additional money for fire. And it can also be additional money for, in this case, the Community Service District of Hellendale or for the county or both. So they've created, there already is money on every parcel in the property tax to pay for fire services. And that money varies depending on how much the parcel is worth. The parcel worth, $100,000, they pay $1,000 in property tax, and $300 of that may go to fire services. A property that's worth $10,000 may pay $100 a year, and $30 of that would go to fire services. So they've now put 157 across the board that hits every parcel the same, and they went to some vote procedure in Hellendale and got this approved. And that was all it was supposed to be, was something in Hellendale.
Right.
But yeah, it was a legit thing in Hellendale. The people in Hellendale said, more than 2/3 of them raised their hand and said, we want to impose a tax on ourselves so we can pay for fire service.
Right.
Yeah. Well, more than 2/3 of the people, more than 2/3 of the less than 1/3 that voted. Let's be clear on that.
All right.
The people who cared are the people who heard about it.
So this area then becomes, over the course of the next 15 years in our last 6 shows,
right?
FP5 the county uses this district to expand this special tax now to the entire unincorporated area of the county, plus Upland and San Bernardino.
Everybody in the rest of the county didn't vote on this, didn't have any idea what was going on. All of a sudden, it creeps up at a supervisors meeting where the supervisors alone now can vote to expand this Hellendale FP5 district, 157 a parcel, to all the unincorporated areas of the county, 19,000 square miles. So this little 5 square mile thing, all of a sudden they blow it up to 19,000 square miles and say all they're doing, they're not putting a new tax on, they're expanding an existing district, an existing special district. And, certainly it's against the intent of some of the initiatives in constitutional provisions like Prop 13 that, say that the citizens, if you want to tax them, the citizens who are getting taxed need to vote and prove that by a 2/3 majority. Or the Constitution, which says if you're going to apply a general tax to the citizens, those citizens cannot be treated differently. They cannot have unequal protection under the law. And in this case, because of the politics involved, they knew they could get 3 votes from the supervisors because one supervisor was running for state election and could use their support. 2 supervisors had virtually no unincorporated areas in their district. And they did a 3-2 vote at the supervisor level to impose this 5 square mile isolated thing to all the unincorporated, just the unincorporated parts of the entire county to raise $27 million. And the thing is, and the provisions are, as you heard from the guy over at Bob Cable, I think his name is Bob, that has looked at this matter when they first tried to do it in the city or in the community of San Antonio Heights. That's just a start. It gives them also the ability to put fees on and to increase this tax and that type of deal. So it's the wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will, coming over, and that is why this these other techniques that you see of sales tax increase under somewhat false pretenses in Barstow, a sales tax increase under somewhat false pretenses in Laguna Beach, are just another page out of the playbook to create other revenue sources to help them pay for, as Tom said, largely their fiscal irresponsibility regarding pensions, and not say what they really need the money for and what they're doing it for.
And the crazy part is that, like you just said, Eric, that your generation's going to be paying for it. I was just going to say that and like these tax fees can just keep increasing with no control, right? Like they could, once they pass, they could just keep saying like, we're going to increase this because it's already a past tax.
They can, or they can introduce the commercial contract aspect to it that protects it constitutionally from any interference in the future. All they need to do is issue another bond, pledge the revenue that's coming in off that sales tax, and that sales tax will never go away because it would be held to be a violating the ability to contract that the city would have in making a bond contract with somebody saying, we're going to pay you that bond back, and this sales tax revenue will be there to pay it back. So the next step is to take it and make it permanent in that manner, just by issuing another bond.
I almost wonder, like, what do these people think? I mean, do they not have children and say, hey, like, you know, like, what are their children's gonna, how is our life gonna be like, almost? Like, I mean, do they not care? Like, yeah, you're gonna be stuck with these fees. And it's
it's a good question. If you look at kind of the history of, or the recent history of how elected entities have used bonding and debt and borrowing, it's essentially been, I'm gonna borrow now so that I can gain favor for whatever reason, and right. I'm gonna kick. Because, 4-8 years from now, hopefully I move on to a different position, something like that. I'm going to kick the issue of debt down the road because I don't have to deal with it in the next 4 years. That's and
your question of don't they have children that they feel a need to leave a viable working government like was left to a lot of us in our generation. I think their answer to that is it's become more of a selfish thing that my children will do best if I'm a politician, if I stay in office and I accrue more years of service towards a pension and I make more money to the extent I'm making more money in office than I would be out of office. And that's why our group has tried to push for these ballot initiatives to have the people in office making the same amount as the public in general. And the only way to increase their the only way to increase what they make would be to rising tide lifts all boats, to raise the income for everybody within the political jurisdiction, whether that's the county or the city. If they can raise the average income, they can raise their own income accordingly, and that puts them in line with everybody else's goal who does have children and would like the best for them. But when you can single yourself out and vote yourself a higher salary and a higher pension, sometimes to the tune of 20 to 40 times more than it's being paid in the private sector, then you're providing for your own children in that way, and it creates a non-alignment with you and the people that you're supposed to be serving who would like to leave a good functioning system.
I mean, but realistic, these people that are in power right now are not going to be able to take care of their children, like when they're way older and like what are they going to then do then? I mean, you're making more money now and you can help them out now. But when that child becomes an adult, that's not going to be the case, Well,
the system will break, and that's what we keep saying, that all this is non-sustainable, and it's already broken. So in San Bernardino City it broke, and the San Bernardino City went bankrupt because they had promised too much to the people that worked for San Bernardino, and the people that worked for San Bernardino turned around and gave contributions back to the people who kept promising them more, and you got this cycle of public employee contributions going back in to drive greater public compensation. And then it broke, and they didn't have enough money, and they went bankrupt. And so what happened was, for instance, the fire department in San Bernardino City, those people were going to have to go through a bankruptcy court, and they're going to have to get their benefits cut. And this is where you look at it from the future, and you say, to the people that are part of the, fire and police community right now, and looking at this thing, hey, this is our union. We're fighting for what we're going to get. We should be paid this amount. If it doesn't fit within the system and it's not sustainable, you're fighting only for the older people that have already retired and are getting that pension, and maybe the people who are close to retirement. Because by the time you get there, this will be proven to be unsustainable, not just at the city level, but at the county level. What happened in San Bernardino City is the county went in and bailed them out, and they took over their fire department, and they promised all those people the same pension benefits they had been promised, in some extent even greater than what the people in the county were getting, and told the supervisors who voted to do this that they were going to be able to absorb this easily and there would be no additional cost. And in fact, this is a primary driver, that and the increase in admin personnel and admin costs for the fire department. That's what's creating the huge budget deficit for the fire department that they have to go out and look for this additional revenue for. So eventually, now the same thing happens at the county. The county will go bankrupt, or they'll try to find these other, possibly unconstitutional and certainly deceptive ways of raising more tax to stave that day off. But they're not staving it off forever. They've said that FP5 would raise $27 million, but that they will already be $29 million in the hole just for this year. And then next year they'd have another $30 million in the hole because these costs keep growing and growing. So you can expect that the next thing after FP5 will be something like this sales tax deal. And the next thing after that sales tax deal will be something like, Tom, what's some of the other things they're using out there?
Well, I was hoping to get to the Nevada Street Underground Utilities District, but then I almost died on set here, so we couldn't get to it. But it's interesting, if you look at the Board of Supervisors agenda on the day that they were voting for FP5, buried in the consent calendar, which we all remember, you just vote on it and it goes by, nobody really talks about it. They voted to put something on the agenda for next time, the Nevada Street Underground Utilities District. There's a 1,500-yard road about a mile and a half from here that belongs to the county, and what they want to do is they want to bury the utilities. Sounds good, right? Public safety issue, okay? And then you have the issue of the lawyer writing the thing. And this utility district is according to the text of the resolution, supposed to last for perpetuity, which we learned a couple of weeks ago is forever.
Right.
Okay, so imagine this. You start this special district. You convince a small area, hey, vote a tax to underground your utilities. Oh, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And then the county uses that, and they just expand it the way they have FP5.
Right.
And it's sucking in more tax money.
More money. Well, that wraps it up for us. Thank you, Tom. You made it through a show. Eric, thank you. We'll be back next Sunday.
It was ugly. Do we have an AED in the building in case we lose somebody?
I don't think so, Tom. That wraps it up for us.
You better get one, and you better learn how to use it.
For more U-Turn, go to our website, uturnradio.com. Till next time.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
A new week and a similar result in Kansas City. I'm Tim Murray. The Chiefs are now 7-1 on the season thanks to a 30-23 victory over the Broncos, and it was the usual suspects who did the damage for KC.
Kareem Hunt